Well, Cam Newton got his contract. Who's he going to throw the ball to? Man, the Carolina Panthers, they're back to where they started last year. A rookie wide receiver is their best receiver. Newton signed a 5-year, $103.8 million deal in June, becoming the 8th quarterback to reach the $100 million mark, joining Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Tony Romo, Joe Flacco, Colin Kaepernick, and Jay Cutler. There's something called the Rule of 5 with NFL quarterbacks. Basically, the 5th year is when that QB enters that prime of his career. Well, Cam enters his 5th year now. You know, I'd say he's a solid to, pretty solid quarterback, but by no means would I say he's elite. He didn't even make my top 10 in my quarterback rankings. I don't think he's a top 10 guy, but I do have him 11th. So, I don't see him with the Tony Romos and the Matt Ryans and the Phillip Rivers. I don't think he's up there yet, but he certainly has the potential to be. I mean, like I said, the 5th year, that's when you start really taking that next leap into the elite status. Now, do I think he's going to be elite ever? Who knows? But I do like the prospects of his future. As you guys all know, emerging 2nd-year wideout Kelvin Benjamin, he's out for the year after suffering a torn ACL during practice on August 19th. The 28th pick in that loaded wide receiver class in the 2014 draft. Caught 73 balls for 1,008 yards, had 9 touchdowns, and at 6'5", his height aided Newton big time because Cam does have that tendency to sail his balls from time to time. The crop behind Benjamin, well, it's pretty dire, but having him in the lineup attracted double teams, the opposing team's best corner, and would have made it easier for Jericho, Cotchery, and rookie Devin Funchess to find open spaces. Benjamin was targeted 146 times last year. That was the 6th highest total in the league, and his 20 red zone targets were the 16th most. So, again, Carolina's back to where it started a year ago, at that wide receiver position. Looks like Greg Olsen will have to shoulder a lot of that load again. He went over 1,000 yards receiving for the first time in his career a year ago. He was targeted 122 times. I would have thought Carolina would go the free agent route. I thought Reggie Wayne made perfect sense, but obviously now he's in New England. Wes Welker and Brandon Lloyd, they're still out on the market. And I don't know if he's serious or not. I'm going to just assume, he's not. But Randy Moss on social media has said, he'd love to give it another go in the NFL. If he does, I'd be hitting up his phone in a second. I mean, it wouldn't hurt. This crop of receivers is, it's still a team that's more than capable to win the NFC South for a 3rd straight season. They became, the first in division's history to win consecutive crowns last year, despite having just a 7-8-1 record. Carolina has never put back-to-back winning seasons together. Now, the reason why I would say that they have a shot is because, obviously, as you saw last season, the division isn't that great. And I don't see it being great again. That 7-8-1 mark, though, was somewhat impressive, though, considering they ripped off 4 straight wins to close the campaign. That didn't even include their wildcard victory over the Arizona Cardinals. They also closed the 2013 season strong, winning 11 of its last 12 regular season games. So it's something that Ron Rivera is used to. You got to get off the better starts. The defense did take its lumps last year, although they still finished 10th in total defense, 11th against the pass, 16th against the run. But those numbers were down from 2nd in 2013. The Panthers also led the NFL in sacks in 2013, but they were 13th last year. NFL tackles leader Luke Kuechly, though, he took a huge leap forward last season. Some have argued that he was overrated the first 2 years of his career, but can't really argue that anymore, for sure. I mean, the guy is just outstanding. All right, so as you'll notice in the description box below, I got unit rankings, I've got player rankings, you'll see numbers besides them, and I'll even include what they could have been with Kelvin Benjamin in their offense this year and what they're going to be without him. So it's a big loss. I mean, there's no going around it. It's a huge loss, and it's a huge loss because of how dire the depth is behind him. So it might be the biggest loss the team has had in the preseason. Jordy Nelson's a better player, but Benjamin's a more valuable commodity for Carolina than Nelson is for Green Bay, because at least Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a lot better than Cam Newton. All right, position by position we go now. Cam has never had the cast to put up monster numbers, but he's still thrown for over 3,000 yards and run for over 500 in each of his first 4 years. He has that rare combination of size, arm strength, and power as a runner. I've referenced this before. His accuracy can be spotty, and his leadership has come into question. He doesn't have like the most positive body language when he gets his back put against the wall. I mean, that Monday night game against Philly was a perfect example. You know, that the Panthers just got the shit beat out of them, and his body language on the sideline, it wasn't very good. It was a crazy year on the injury front for him. He had ankle surgery in the spring. He broke his ribs in the preseason and then was in a December car accident, which broke 2 bones in his back, but he's fully healthy heading into 2015. Derek Anderson filled in admirably during his absence last year at Joe Webb. Well, he'll be the third stringer for the quarterback situation. No team ran for more yards than the Panthers over the final 5 games, but the franchise rushing leader is now in Pittsburgh. D'Angelo Williams, now 32. He was released. So that means Jonathan Stewart will be the #1 guy for truly the first time in his career. 235-pound bruiser has missed 20 games over the last 3 years, but when healthy, he's one of the toughest ball carriers to bring down in the league. Behind a woeful run-blocking offensive line, he still averaged 4.6 yards per carry. That was 1.1 more than Williams. Fozzy, Whitaker, Jordan Todman, and Cameron Artis-Payne are fighting for backup carries. Whitaker is a scat back. Todman comes in from Jacksonville. He's decent. I mean, not anything great or anything. And Artis-Payne was the 15th running back selected in the draft. He went in the 5th round. Mike Tolbert returns as the fullback. Always thought he's been, kind of underrated. Good thing, the Panthers basically have a receiver at tight end in Olsen, who led the team in receptions with 84, tied Benjamin for the team lead in yards with 1,008. He runs crisp routes, has soft hands. Blocking isn't his strength, though, but he's worked at it diligently since coming into the league and has improved and become respectable in that area. Finishing blocks is when he tends to get too finesse. At 6'4", 230, the second-rounder Funchess is a cross between a tight end and a receiver. There's a lot of pressure on this kid. He's still very raw, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I wasn't that high on him coming into the draft. I was kind of shocked he went in the 2nd round, but the Panthers seem to be high on him, so we'll see what happens. While Funchess and Benjamin are both big receivers, they do have different styles. Benjamin is physical, while Funchess uses his body to position himself. He wasn't known for his hands in college. Cotchery will probably start the season as the #1 guy. Ginn was brought back to Carolina after a year in Arizona. And a dark horse to watch is Philly Brown. As bad as the receiving core appears to be, the offensive line may actually be the worst. I mean, there was not a worse pass-protecting unit in the league last season, in my opinion. Michael Oher replaces Byron Bell at left tackle. Not that it's much of an upgrade, but anything over Bell was a start. Ryan Kalil remains one of the best centers in the game, and Andrew Norwell has been a revelation at left guard. I think he's been pretty good. He was undrafted. Going back to Kalil, though, I referenced how poor Carolina's pass protection was. Well, that's one of the things that he's actually very poor at for his skill set. But he is one of the bright spots on the line. He allowed the 3rd most hurries among the starting centers last season. So as poor of a pass blocker as he is, he's a complete opposite as a run blocker. He's agile enough to seal the edge, but also has the strength to overpower linebackers and safeties on the 2nd level. On the right side of the line, Trey Turner will start at guard and Mike Remmers at tackle. Despite the departure of Greg Hardy, there's still a lot to like about Carolina's defensive line. Charles Johnson is a stud. Star Lotulelei has lived up to his billing as a 1st-round pick, and Kawann Short is vastly underrated. I mean, he's a really, really good player. Johnson led the league with 53 quarterback hurries, but his 8.5 sacks were the fewest in 5 seasons as a starter. He's thickly built, his motor runs hot, and is quick off the line. Lotulelei has the strength to power and dominate. He's very agile for a man his size. Short was a huge breakout performer in his sophomore season last year. He has a lot of strength and uses it to his advantage when bull rushing. He converts speed into power to drive guards and centers backwards, playing in front of Kuechly. Short paved the way for him by absorbing blocks. In the run game, he can line up in a gap or head on and make plays. Once again, his power really comes in handy. If he does have a weakness, he has to do a better job of diagnosing play action. But other than that, I mean, really good player. In Hardy's absence, Kony, Ealy, Mario, Addison, and Wes Horton split time at the other defensive end spot opposite Johnson. The second rounder from 2014, Ealy, will most likely be the starter when the season begins. Neither one of the three stood out last season. I mean, huge drop-off from Hardy and those guys, obviously. Kuechly is the top inside linebacker in the game, and to me, it's not even close. He and Bobby Wagner have always been paired together because Kuechly was the 9th pick in the 2012 draft, while Wagner fell to the second round that year. Now, I've never ranked Wagner ahead of him, but it's always been a neck-and-neck race, for me. But now, you can't argue it anymore. Kuechly is the clear-cut #1 inside linebacker in the game today. He's the best against both the run and the pass. He tallied 153 tackles, which led the league among inside linebackers. They go with 3 sacks and 12 passes defensed. He's the best in the league at speeding and knifing through traffic to bring down running backs. Nobody can match his instincts and awareness. He's just so damn smart out there. In pass coverage, his footwork is incredible. Kuechly can turn and run with not only tight ends, but slot receivers as well. And he's very fluid in his zone dropbacks. As a pass rusher, he has the speeding timing to shoot the A-gap well, but he's asked to be in coverage more often than attack the quarterback. He's not the only stud among Carolina's linebackers. Thomas Davis is up there too, and good for him, man. I mean, he's a guy that's kind of battled injuries in the past, and he's back to being that player again. At 6'1", 235, he's a 3-down linebacker, and coverage is his greatest strength. He has fantastic quickness and space, agility, and balance. He has the closing speed, the break on the ball when dropping back into zone. He can also match up very, very well against linebackers. Because he is a bit on the smaller side, he does struggle when it comes to disengaging from a blocker on the move, and his 14 missed tackles are a little bit much. As a pass rusher, like some of the other guys on the list, on like my outside linebacker list, he's not asked to do it often, but when he does, he can be a force. A.J. Klein looks like he might start at strong side linebacker, although first-rounder Shaq Thompson is the strong side guy of the future. Jason Trusnick was signed in the offseason to back up Kuechly. He's a solid run stuffer. Carolina doesn't have a household name in the secondary besides Charles Tillman, but cornerbacks Bene Benwickery and Josh Norman, I think they're solid. And safety Trey Boston, they're all underrated. May not be a great secondary, but it's a promising one. The 2014 fifth-rounder Benwickery had a very solid rookie campaign, showcasing anticipation and ball skills. Norman has good size and showed that he can be a shutdown corner last year after being benched in each of his first 2 years. Boston was a fourth-round rookie and played equally well against the run and pass. Melvin White is the nickel corner. He's not that fast, but he's solid. Starter opposite Boston at safety is Roman Harper, who had a poor year last season after being plucked away from New Orleans. Really struggled in coverage. Kicker Graham Gano and punter Brad Nortman are solid. Ted Ginn will handle both kickoff and punt return duties. So with the injury to Benjamin, I think Carolina might struggle this year. I got him going 7-9. Would have had him going 8-8 had Benjamin been healthy. So it's going to cost them a win, I think. So 7-9, no playoffs this year, no NFC South. Not high on on Carolina, so we'll see what happens. With that being said, I'm out of here. Make sure you follow us on Twitter @TheBitterBirds, and yeah, later.